What would you do if the world walked past you when you needed help the most? Would you keep waiting for a stranger's kindness, or would you give up hope entirely? Now imagine being that one person who stops when everyone else turns away. Could a simple act of kindness on a crowded street change two lives forever? The city buzzed with its usual chaos, cars honking, vendors shouting, office workers rushing across the wide intersection as if the world would end if they were late. In the middle of this restless tide stood a tall man in plain clothes, holding a white cane, his dark sunglasses shielding his eyes. Adrian Cole, the elusive CEO known for power and wealth, had never felt this exposed before. He wasn't really blind, but today he needed to be. Standing at the curb, he listened as engines roared past him. People brushed by, some giving him a quick glance before hurrying on. A few muttered things under their breath. Can't he just call someone? Or, another beggar. Not one person slowed down. His grip tightened around the cane. So this is what it feels like, he thought bitterly. Invisible. Helpless. The light changed. He tapped the cane forward, hesitated, and then pulled back when a motorcycle sped past, splashing dirty water across his shoes. Someone laughed. Adrian's chest tightened. For all his billions, in this moment he was just a man everyone ignored. Excuse me. The voice was soft, unsure, but close. Adrian turned slightly, tilting his head as if trying to find the source. A pair of gentle hands touched his arm. Do you need help crossing? For the first time that day, warmth spread through him. The voice belonged to a young woman, her tone free of pity, only concern. She was dressed simply, a faded blouse, worn jeans, and shoes that had seen better days. A paper bag dangled from her other arm, groceries peeking out. Yes, Adrian said quietly, lowering his chin. I don't want to bother anyone. You're not bothering me, she assured him, smiling though he couldn't see it. Come on. The road's busy today. Hold on to me. Her grip was firm yet careful, guiding him step by step. Together they moved across the crosswalk. Adrian could hear her calling out softly, watch the bump here, okay now step up. Unlike the others who had rushed past him, she slowed down, matching her pace with his. When they reached the other side, she released his arm but didn't walk away immediately. There you go. You're safe now. Adrian hesitated. He wanted to ask her name, but for a moment he was caught in silence, stunned by the sincerity of her act. In a world where everyone had turned their eyes away, this girl had stopped. For him. Thank you, he finally said, his voice carrying a weight he didn't mean to reveal. She smiled again, adjusting her grocery bag. It's nothing. Just be careful, okay? The city isn't kind to people who walk alone. As she turned to leave, Adrian found himself calling out, Wait? She paused. I don't suppose you'd walk with me. The girl looked at him, hesitated, then nodded. Sure. I don't mind. And just like that, a single act of kindness became the start of something neither of them could have imagined. The little bell above the restaurant door chimed as Adrian stepped in, still leaning on his cane. The scent of roasted garlic and butter hung in the air, clashing with the low hum of voices and clinking glasses. He had chosen this place carefully, high-end enough for his blind date, yet casual enough not to draw too much attention. Just here, she said softly, guiding him to a corner booth. This spot's quiet. You'll be comfortable. Adrian smiled faintly. He was supposed to meet Clarissa, the wealthy socialite his family had chosen for him. In truth, he'd intended to sit with her while playing blind, watching her reactions, testing her sincerity. But as Ella slid into the seat opposite him, her grocery bag resting by her side, Adrian felt something shift inside him. She wasn't supposed to be here. Yet, he didn't want her to leave. Thank you, he murmured, settling into the chair. Would you mind staying? Just for a little while? Ella tilted her head. Stay? With you? Yes. I don't usually eat alone. He lowered his gaze, playing into the blindness. But if I'm asking too much. No, she interrupted, shaking her head quickly. It's fine. I was just going to grab something cheap on my way home anyway. This is nicer than the canteen at work. Her easy honesty disarmed him. Adrian nodded and they both reached for the menus. Ella instinctively began to read it aloud, describing the dishes in careful detail. There's grilled salmon, roast chicken, pasta with mushrooms, she listed, pausing to peek at his expression. Do you want me to pick something for you? Yes, Adrian said, though what he really wanted was to keep listening to her voice. When the waiter came, Ella ordered modestly, one pasta and a glass of water. Adrian, following her lead, asked for the same. No extravagance, no wine list, no fuss. Just a simple meal. As they ate, Adrian leaned into the role he had chosen, asking small questions about her day, her work, her family. Ella's answers came reluctantly at first, but soon she opened up. She spoke of long shifts, her mother's illness, the struggle to make ends meet. Yet through it all, her tone carried no bitterness. Adrian listened, captivated. This is the kind of woman money can't buy, he thought. Across the restaurant, a woman in a red dress, Clarissa, stood abruptly from her table, her eyes scanning the room. When she spotted Adrian with Ella, she scoffed, muttered angrily into her phone, and stormed out. She had been waiting for him, but he never showed. Adrian didn't notice. For the first time in years, he was laughing. Ella had just teased him about how blind people probably make fewer mistakes than those who can see, and he couldn't help but grin. That night, his test took an unexpected turn. The woman he was meant to meet left in anger, while the woman who had stopped to help him across the road unknowingly became the center of his world. The days that followed felt different for Adrian. 4 years, his life had been scheduled down to the second. Board meetings, investor calls, charity galas, and endless formalities. But now he found himself carving out hours just to be with Ella. It started simply. He would accidentally run into her outside the diner where she worked nights, or linger near the park on her walk home. Each time he played the same role, the quiet, blind man fumbling with his cane, and each time she took his arm without hesitation. One afternoon they sat together on a park bench as children ran across the grass, their laughter carrying on the breeze. Ella was reading aloud from a second-hand book she had tucked into her bag. Her voice was soft but alive, rising and falling with the rhythm of the story. "I do," Adrian answered truthfully. "Your voice, it makes the words more real." Her cheeks flushed and she looked back at the pages quickly. "It's silly. I just read because it calms me down. I used to dream about studying literature in college. But well," her voice trailed off. "But," Adrian prompted gently. She exhaled, a faint laugh escaping her lips. "But reality doesn't care about dreams. My mom's health comes first. Rent comes first. So, books are enough for now." Adrian studies. Later that evening they stopped at a small cafe. Ella insisted on paying for their coffee, brushing off his attempts to contribute. "You're my friend," she said firmly. "And friends don't keep score." The word friend lingered in Adrian's mind. He wasn't used to it. In his world, people wanted contracts, partnerships, investments, but rarely friendship. As days turned into weeks, their bond grew in unexpected ways. Ella taught him how to listen to the city, to distinguish a bus from a taxi by its rumble, to tell which way the wind shifted at intersections, to trust her gentle nudges as they crossed streets together. "Close your eyes," she told him once, laughing. "Pretend you're really blind. Just listen." And so he did. In that moment, hearing only her voice guiding him, he realized he was falling, not into a trick but into something real. One evening, as they sat on a bench watching the sunset bleed into the horizon, Ella leaned closer, her arm brushing against his. "You know," she said softly, "you smile more than most people who can see the world. It's refreshing." Adrian turned his head toward her, fighting the urge to confess everything. "If only you knew who I really was." Ella didn't reply right away. She just smiled, looking at the fading light, unaware that her kindness was slowly dismantling the walls Adrian had built his whole life. The night was cool, the kind of evening where the city lights shimmered like scattered stars on the pavement. Adrian had just left a board meeting. He wasn't dressed in his plain clothes tonight. He wore a tailored navy suit, the kind that fit him like armor. No cane, no dark glasses. Just himself. As he slid into the back seat of his black Mercedes, he felt a pang of guilt. He had planned to meet Ella later, still playing the role of the blind man. But tonight's deception felt heavier than usual. Her laughter, her trust, her gentle touch, it all weighed against the lie he had built. The driver pulled up to a pharmacy to collect Adrian's prescription. Adrian stepped out of the car casually, checking his watch. That's when he froze. On the sidewalk, holding a small paper bag of medicine, was Ella. For a moment she didn't notice him. She was busy adjusting the strap of her bag, her hair falling into her face. But when she lifted her head, her eyes locked onto his. Time seemed to stop. Adrian's first instinct was to grab his cane, to put the glasses back on, but it was too late. He stood there, fully exposed, perfectly confident in his stride, his sight clear and unbroken. Ella's mouth parted slightly, confusion flashing in her eyes. Then the confusion hardened into something else, shock, disbelief, and betrayal all at once. "Adrian?" Her voice cracked. He swallowed. "Ella, you can see." Her words were sharp, cutting through the air like glass. You've been able to see this whole time. Adrian stepped closer, his hands raised as if to calm her. Please let me explain. Explain what? She snapped, her voice trembling. That you lied to me every single day? That every time I guided you across a street or read for you, you were pretending? Adrian's chest tightened. It wasn't a game. I swear to you it wasn't. I wanted to know what it felt like to be seen as a man, not a CEO. To find someone who could care for me without knowing my name or my money. Ella shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. So you tested me? Like some kind of experiment? No. Her hands tightened around the bag she carried. I saw you because I thought you were vulnerable. Because I thought you needed me. But you were lying the whole time. He reached out, but she stepped back, her face pale under the streetlight. Don't, she whispered. Her voice broke. Whatever this was, it's over. And with that, she turned and walked away, her footsteps fading into the night. Adrian stood frozen on the pavement, the weight of her absence crushing him more than any business failure ever had. For the first time in his life, he wasn't the powerful CEO. He was just a man who had broken the only person who ever cared for him. The days after Ella walked away felt unbearably hollow. Adrian sat in his penthouse, staring out at the glittering skyline, but it only reminded him of everything she despised: wealth, deception, facades. His phone lay untouched on the table. He had drafted countless messages to her, but deleted them all. Words he knew would never be enough. Meanwhile, Ella threw herself into work, hiding her pain behind long shifts and weary smiles. But her mother's health continued to decline. The hospital visits grew more frequent, the bills piled higher, and Ella found herself at a breaking point. One night, sitting beside her mother's hospital bed, she whispered, I don't know how much more I can do, Mama. I'm trying, but... Her voice cracked as she buried her face in her hands. The following week, the doctors approached Ella with surprising news. A charity fund had stepped in, covering her mother's surgery and medical expenses in full. Ella was stunned. She had never applied for any fund, and when she pressed for details, the hospital staff simply smiled. Anonymous donor, they said. But Ella wasn't naive. Deep down she knew who it was. It was a crisp morning when Ella walked out of the hospital, the weight of exhaustion heavy on her shoulders. She turned a corner, and froze. There he was. Adrian. No cane. No glasses. Just him, leaning against a lamppost, his expensive suit traded for a simple shirt and jeans. He looked almost ordinary. He straightened when he saw her, his eyes searching hers carefully. Ella. She wanted to be angry, to walk past him. But something in his face stopped her. There was no arrogance there, no smugness, just quiet vulnerability. I didn't mean for it to happen this way, he said softly. I never wanted to hurt you. The truth is, when I pretended to be blind, I thought I was hiding. But you, his voice faltered. You made me see. Ella's throat tightened. She remembered her mother's surgery, the bills that had vanished overnight, the anonymous donor. You paid for it, she whispered. He nodded, almost ashamed. I didn't want you to know. I didn't want you to think I was buying forgiveness. I just couldn't watch you suffer alone. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the hum of the city around them. Finally, Ella sighed, tears brimming in her eyes. Do you have any idea how much you hurt me? Yes, Adrian said, his voice raw. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it right, if you let me. They stood on the sidewalk, the morning sun casting a golden glow over them. Adrian took a step closer, not daring to touch her yet. That day on the road, he said, his voice trembling, everyone else walked past me. You didn't. You stopped. You saw me when no one else did. And from that moment I knew, whether I was blind or not, I'd never stop seeing you. Ella's heart ached. She wanted to stay angry, to protect herself. But as she looked into his eyes, she realized something. He wasn't the untouchable CEO in that moment. He was just a man, flawed, desperate, and painfully sincere. Slowly she reached out, taking his hand. No more lies, she said firmly. No more lies, he promised. And there, in the middle of the bustling city, they stood hand in hand, not a CEO and a poor girl, not a blind man and his helper, but two people who had found love in the most unexpected way.